Hey folks, this is Kevin Rice, and this is my dear friend Ryin Cornett. Say hello.
How's it going, y'all? First time on Facebook Live, excited.
Well, good. We're going to have a good time. And I guess Ryan and I discussed this earlier. You know, he really wanted to ask some questions to me regarding A Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, conversations with God. There are other things, Abraham Hicks, Byron Katie. I can go on and on and on. So we're going to have a wonderful communication, and get online there, Ryan, in case we see some. We saw some people already joining us right now. So I'm going to turn this over. Let me tell you a little bit about Ryan, how we met, and then Ryan can tell you about him. And we're going to have a wonderful, what I say, satsang, right? Satsang is an awareness of the infinite consciousness that you and I share together. And we use A Course in Miracles and other metaphysical pointers to help us. So if you have any question as we go through this, just let us know. Principally, Ryan is going to give me questions, and if you guys want to have any commentary or questions, don't hesitate. Ryan is a student of A Course in Miracles, comes to my classes here in West Palm Beach, as well as in Miami. He was there last Sunday when we did A Course in Miracles group discussion, and I met him. He's my neighbor here in West Palm Beach, and he's been a dear friend, a wonderful student of A Course in Miracles. So tell our audience a little bit about you, and then we'll go from there on. I'll answer any question you have whatsoever, and let's go to you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I met Kevin about 6 months back when I moved here to West Palm Beach. I was new to the area, and Kevin kind of reached out to me, and it was funny. The first time we met, I was actually walking barefoot, and Kevin said to me, "Hey, I noticed that you're walking barefoot." And I felt kind of embarrassed, and I said, "Yeah, I'm kind of like a spiritual guy. I'm into nutrition, and I have a relationship with nature." And I felt kind of embarrassed to say it. And then Kevin just gave me this look, and he kind of laughed, and he just said, "We're going to get along. We're going to be friends." And then we kind of walked away. And after that, Kevin introduced me to this book, A Course in Miracles. And man, I was just at a point in my life where I was feeling kind of at a standstill, where I was really looking for some type of guiding light or some type of principle to just guide me towards like what my highest purpose was in my life. And this book, A Course in Miracles, has been really instrumental in helping me kind of find what my purpose is. So I want to ask Kevin a couple questions. It's funny because this is my first time on Facebook talking openly about my spirituality, which I feel like is a loaded topic as it is. So this book, A Course in Miracles, can you tell us a little bit more about it? Because when I hear about a spiritual book, there's some innuendos with that are a little bit intimidating. Like, does this book contradict the things that our religions are taught? Or is this book going to make me a sinner if I believe the teachings in this book? I'll tell you my personal experience. When I came to this book, I was a little intimidated by it. I had never heard of it before. And when I opened it up and started reading the text in this book, I asked myself, I said, "Jesus, is it okay for me to read this book?" And the answer was so clearly yes, that this book was divinely guided, that it was the clear word of Jesus speaking to teach us how to walk a purpose-driven life, that I couldn't put the book down. And that's why I am a student now of A Course in Miracles and Kevin's teachings. So can you tell us more about this book, how it's used, its application, where it fits into our modern paradigm of spirituality, and how we can use it?
Well, I can say it easily that the curriculum of A Course in Miracles is the opposite of the voices of the world, period. So to give you a little, and everybody else, a little history with me, I've been a teacher of A Course in Miracles for nearly 30 years. So I was brought up as a fundamentalist Christian. I had my own TV shows in Kansas City, and I toured with music groups, really promoting the teachings of the New Testament. But I was unfulfilled, and I did left my ministry and everything, and I went to a psychiatrist and said, look, I am so unhappy, almost suicidal, okay? And after I unloaded him for like an hour, at the end of it, he says, Kevin, I've never said this to another client in my practice in 15 years, but he said, I am strongly guided to give you a book, and he gave me A Course in Miracles. So as I went through A Course in Miracles, the text, the workbook for lessons, lessons, as well as the manual for teachers, I was hooked, okay? I studied it, immersed myself for a year, and then I began teaching it in Kansas City. So, in terms of the Bible, you mentioned this earlier, if you look at the Bible metaphysically, you can see common qualities on both things. It does away with any notion of hell or sin and so forth, and gives you a theoretical foundation of our spiritual journey. All right? Really placing our attention on love and moving our perception and our interpretations away from fear. Okay. Now, that was the opposite of what I experienced before as a fundamentalist Christian, right? Because I really gave my focus on fear and guilt and hell, the fear of death and all of this stuff, which is why I was so unfulfilling in my life. And I'm really pleased that A Course in Miracles was gifted to me by a psychiatrist in Kansas City, Dr. James Myers. So I did that, and I want to say that A Course in Miracles is a private and personal study. Yeah, it's okay to have group studies about it and so forth, but it is not a religion. It's just not. It just provides a theoretical foundation for how you and I can navigate ourselves through time and space easily. It teaches us how to move from a dream of suffering to a dream of love.
I love that.
Okay?
That's been my experience with the book. Is when I read this book, it feels like it's teaching me how to do self-awareness, to do work on myself. It's not something that I want to get on Facebook and boast about. It feels like it's internal work. It's deep. It's forgiveness. It's acceptance. It's not something that I want to brag to other people about. It's something that, if anything, I should be more quiet about and walk the walk before I talk the talk.
Yeah, let me just stop there and just echo what A Course in Miracles says, is that the primary responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. So that's exactly what you mean. That I'm not here to shove it down somebody's throat, okay? And I did that, by the way, with my family, who are all fundamentalist Christians in Kansas City and still are. Never, ever did I push this curriculum to them through the process. It was my fixation of A Course in Miracles and the direction that it was pointing me toward that was so important that we understand that. So wonderful that you mentioned that.
No, it's funny. This brings up something that I read in Conversations with God. In that book, the author Neil Donald Walsh, he says, "Do I need to be a vegetarian?" And for those of you that are watching, my friends, you know that I've been very outspoken about nutrition and sustainability. And in this book, Neil Donald Walsh is speaking with God, and he asks God, he says, "Do I need to be a vegetarian?" And God responds and says, "It's okay to be a vegetarian, but is that self-identity as a vegetarian going to create judgment towards your brother or your sister?" And so one of the common themes that I find in A Course in Miracles, The Way of Mastery, Conversations with God, and Abraham Hicks' work as well is forgiveness, and so much about relinquishing judgment towards our brothers and our sisters. So can you just speak more on about that preconception that we bring to the world and how that creates this illusion where when we have judgment and resistance towards other, it actually changes the experience that we're having? And when we apply the teachings of these books and we go back to our sponsoring thoughts and we remove those seeds of irritability or judgment or nitpickiness against others, that we can finally come from a place of be here now, of acceptance and non-judgmental perception where we can actually have like a deeper connection. Does that make sense?
Yes, look, if we go through A Course in Miracles, what pops me up immediately in my mind, my psyche, is the first law of chaos, okay? The ego's law of war, if you will. And the first law of chaos says this, that I have a set of values here, okay, and Ryan has a set of values for himself. It's different. And not only is our values different from each other, but that my values are better than Ryan's. It is that thought, okay, that brings us to an unlevel playing field with each other. It makes me more superior to you, and therefore we are immediately on a battlefield with each other right in that moment. So we have to be really responsible for our thoughts, our interpretation, our mindset as we approach each and other people. When I think for 1 second that your values are worse than mine, your interpretation of the world is worse than mine, I'm immediately in conflict with you, okay? You know, people think that peace comes externally to us, when in fact it comes internally. By stepping down that stairway to hell, that first step that says, I'm superior, I'm special, you're not. And because you are incorrect in your perceptions, therefore, in my psyche, you're a bad person because of it. Okay. That is where the war begins. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. I want to explain it from my simple millennial mindset.
Millennials, wonderful group of people.
So I always want the 5-step guide. I always tell Kevin this, like whenever he's explaining something from A Course in Miracles, I'm always like, yeah, that's great, but what's like the 3-step easy user's guide to applying this? Because that's just how my millennial mindset works. But just in a very practical way, I've noticed this because I like feeling good. I naturally just have more joy in my life when I'm resonating, feeling better, joyful, optimistic. And I notice that when I create judgment towards other people, that creates some sense of conflict within myself. So if I see another person and they're wearing a band t-shirt and I have a judgment about that band, when I bring resistance and judgment towards them, I recognize that I'm embodying an energy of, I don't like that. And now I'm taking on that energy. So I started to observe that and I said, you know what? That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel joyful, uplifting, optimistic. So in my personal practice, before I even came to this book, I just tried to stop projecting that judgment onto other people, because I recognized that when I was judging other people, it was actually an energy that I was trying to carry within myself.
And the energy that you were referring to is your level of resistance or anxiety that you're bringing to the interpersonal relationship you're having with that person. And we've discussed this in the group discussion in Miami as well as here in West Palm Beach as well. You know, you have one of two mindsets that you are operating with at any moment. Either you are accepting what is right now, and we accept what is right now because it's already over and done with. What we are seeing is in the past, and we cannot correct it. And we're off of the battlefield immediately. So the mind in its natural state is abstract, okay? And it accepts all things as they are because in our collective mind, we have produced the very thing that we are looking at, okay? So the other mindset that brings us, I think, a hellish experience is the mindset of what should be. My brother should be doing this. My sister should be doing this. I should be doing this or that or the other thing. My government should be doing this. So look, man, I know that things need to be corrected, but the level of correction must occur at the level where the error occurred. So the error occurs at the level of mind. My perceptions, my interpretations, my lens that I'm looking at in any relationship or a job situation or a hierarchy that I'm within, all of that occurs because my mind and your mind and everybody's mind is so powerful. We immediately want to dismiss our own power and relegate it to somebody else, to an external situation or circumstance. So when we retrieve it into our own mind and we accept responsibility for what we are seeing, then quickly, almost in a millisecond, we can change the experience of what we are looking at right now by merely changing our minds about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really hard for me though. I'll be honest. I talk to Kevin about this all the time. It's difficult for me because some of my sponsoring thoughts and my passions are nutrition and sustainability. Like, I really love this planet. And I spoke with Kevin about this last week. Some things are really difficult for me. Like, yesterday I was at a coffee shop and I met this really amazing woman named Anna, and we became friends right away. And we were talking about a coffee cup, and it was a paper coffee cup, and her and I were talking about how we use it one time and then we throw it into a garbage can to go get shipped away to a landfill for the next generation to clean up. And that brought anxiety and resistance to me. And when you say we have to accept that we create all these problems, it's difficult because when I want to help this planet, to me, I think, I need to reduce my carbon footprint. I need to reduce my waste. I need to shop locally. I need to ride my bicycle to work. And I can take responsibility for all of that. But to what extent do I need to be a global citizen where I can try to, am I afraid of death? Is that what the ultimate thing here is? Is that I'm afraid of death, so I'm trying to leave a legacy here on earth because I'm afraid that one day, yes, I will die. And you see where I have this limiting belief there that really creates fear in me of trying to create a better earth for the next generation because I love this planet.
Yeah. Well, look, it's about alignment here. Psychologists refer to a term called dislocation. So if you are in a mindset where you are trying to correct something external to you, you are saying to yourself and to your world in that moment that you are broken and that you need to be fixed. So to try to fix or correct or improve anything that is already over and done with is a testament to ourselves that we in this moment are broken, and we're just projecting it out upon the world. It's like what we call in our group discussions in Miami and West Palm Beach a turnaround. Yes, we see a world that needs correction, but I turn it around and say, hey, Kev, is there a place within you that you believe that needs correction in that moment? Okay? So again, I'm not displacing my responsibility of my angst or the ailments or anything on anything else, but I recognize in that moment that I am not a victim of the world that I see. All suffering, all pain that I'm experiencing is a direct result of my own interpretation of the world. You mentioned forgiveness earlier. yes, forgiveness is necessary, but what we are forgiving is my interpretation of the world. Okay? So that's the filter that needs to be forgiven, is the lens that we bring to the world. Now, Ryan, I understand that there are things in this world that needs to be helped, improved, if you will, collectively. But the moment that I push against the quantum field, it bounces back. I'm going to experience, I'll give you an example from the Way of Mastery. When I drop a pebble through my thoughts of thinking the world is broken and needs to be fixed, I'm dropping a pebble of brokenness into the pool of awareness that we are in. And we're going to experience the ripples of it. See, look, there's evidence here that the world in totality is broken too. Not just one specific person or a circumstance. But because of my mind, and by the way, in that moment, you unfold that broken pebble that you drop into the field of awareness, you're going to experience it singularly in your being. You're going to experience and to reinforce that brokenness in your own psyche. Okay, so I have a responsibility to drop instead a pebble of love and completion and bliss into this pool of awareness. I can surround this event, this person, my job, my government, not with fear and poking at it and evaluating it and measuring it, but you can surround and enfold it with love, compassion, and innocence. The sacred nature of you and me. So we align ourselves in that process by aligning ourselves to the infinite consciousness that we are. So this is why A Course in Miracles says this is a course in content, substance, essence, and has nothing whatsoever to do with a world of form or image whatsoever. Because image and form is merely a reflection of what is holding in our minds right now. That what we are experiencing right now is merely an outward picture of an inward condition. So when I change my inner condition mentally, not behaviorally, the external mirror changes accordingly. Yes, I can change my behavior, but I can't truly change my behavior until I change my mind about me and the world in the process. Behavior is an effect. Okay? So the cause of the correction is within my own mind and nowhere else in my hemisphere. So everything that you and I are experiencing in this dimension right now, in this eternal timeless experience that we are having, is nothing more than a reflection of what you and I have agreed to be the holodeck, the hologram that we are looking at right now. Okay? If I don't like what I am experiencing, I can change my mind instantly because of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? So we have to dislodge our fixation from the mirror and bring it back to the mind that is producing the movie, the inner movie that we are experiencing in time and space. Okay? It's not an outward movie that we're trying to fix here. It's an inward movie, an internal shift from fear to love, and in that shift from fear to love, the miracle arises. Love arises. And you have an experience of unity. You understand that we are exchanging molecules between each other, and the only thing that is separate from me to you and you from me is my judgments, my interpretations, my shame, my blame that I am projecting on others or you in this experience. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome. Get your mic. So,
It just fell down right now?
yeah. So, to my friends who see this, I feel I'm hearing my friends speaking right now, and I love you guys, by the way. And I'm hearing them say, really, Ryin Cornett, he's the one that's on Facebook trying to talk about spirituality. I've drinking beers with him before. I've seen him do this. I've heard him cuss publicly before. How can he be a spiritual person? How can he be talking about teachings of Jesus or this book, A Course in Miracles? So is that true? If someone that drinks beers responsibly or someone that uses a cuss word not to condemn their brother or their sister, that they can't be a spiritual person?
Well, because I'm going to remind everybody that this is a course in content and not in form of any kind. It's an essence and not an image of any kind, okay? Because of that, we have to understand that what we are playing with is an idea. We're not talking about an event of two people having beer, okay? We're talking about the idea that you are surrounding that event with. So do you surround that idea lovingly, or do you surround that event lovelessly? That is the idea that you want to look at. This is not a world of events. This is not a world of form. This is not a world of image. This is a world of essence. This is a world of ideas. So when I change my idea of what I'm experiencing in time and space, my experience, my personal experience of it begins to change accordingly. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's like, I think Abraham says this really well, the level of resistance that you bring to the event is like the anxiety or the hostility you feel towards it. And Kevin, I want to talk to you about my digestion. I've been on and off trying to figure out how to fix my digestion for almost a decade now. I've had terrible digestive problems. It led me on a path of nutrition. I'm so grateful for where it brought me to. And about 3 weeks ago, I came to speak with Kevin, and I was telling him about the issues I was having, and I just was getting it off my chest. I was irritated, I was angry, and Kevin just basically brought it to the forefront that I had so much resistance towards the food that I ate. I had so much judgment towards all the food that I ate. Is it organic? Is it non-GMO? Is it grass-fed, wild-caught, sustainable, gluten-free, paleo? And I recognized that I was never in a state of gratitude or enjoyment when I consumed my food. There was always judgment tied to it. And
because you saw yourself as separate from it.
Yes. And so when we discussed that, that night when I went home, I had my food in front of me, and it was foods that would give me digestive issues, all different types of food, dairy, gluten, whatever it was, right? And I said, you know what? And I said a prayer that you taught me about releasing guilt and shame and allowing God to undo any problem that, and so I was releasing resistance to my food, and I just took the guilt and the shame away from my food. I ate the food and I had zero digestive issues, and for the last 3 weeks I've had the best digestion that I've had in 10 years. It almost is difficult to explain because I've literally read every nutrition book and done every protocol and taken every supplement and fasted and juiced and cleansed and lived in Hawaii and drank water that came off the mountains in Mauna Kea. And it wasn't until I changed my mind about food that my digestive issues just vanished. So it's difficult for me to say because I am so rooted in practicality with science, but at the same time, I firsthand experienced the power of my own mind. And that's why I love these teachings of A Course in Miracles, because they teach us about going to the sponsoring thought, the root cause, and going back to our thoughts. And something you always teach is there's only 2 types of thoughts in the world: love and fear. And I feel that because when I have a thought towards something, if it creates hostility, anxiety, restlessness, I ask myself, is that a thought of love or is that a thought of fear?
Yeah.
And immediately it's obvious that I have apprehension towards that thought. And then I say, okay, why am I bringing resistance to this thought? And then if I could shift that to a loving place, it negates that hostility, that restlessness, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, of course, A Miracle says you have two voices that you're listening to, fear or love. And so we can pull back a little bit by saying that when you understand the principles of A Course in Miracles, you understand as well that fear is not the opposite of love, that it is the denial of it. So when I occupy my mind with fearful thoughts or any thoughts originated from fear, I am telling myself in that moment that I am removing my identity away from love and diving into an illusion, an hallucination called fear. A Course in Miracles says that thousands of times we should say to ourselves every day, who walks with us? Who walks with me? Because it's in that vacuum where you think that you're separate from the world, you think that you're separate from your source, and in that process, it brings a vacuum of loneliness and fear. And so when we remove the gap that we ourselves produce between ourselves and you guys, when we remove that gap between ourselves and our source, the fear dissipates. You know, yes, it's true. In this continuum, this world, fear appears and then it disappears. It arises and falls away. We understand the illusory nature of it because it's temporary. It's just a fallacy that just appears like a cloud moving across a vast sky. So we don't want to fixate on the clouds, but rather the eternal sky behind it. Okay? So look, your body that you were referring to, your thoughts, you know, all of these things is in you. It's not who you are. It's in that. It's in the consciousness, the pure, infinite consciousness that you are. It's in it because you put it there. Okay? Remember that I said in our class Wednesday night here in West Palm Beach, and I think we talked about it Sunday as well in Miami at Unity on the Bay. And that is, look, you'll know when you are in the matrix easily, whether by how deep you are identifying in a dense dream, state of dream, of fear. The first one, you know that you are once removed from your own reality merely by identifying yourself with an illusion we call the separation, which never even occurred in reality. We know that we're twice removed from reality when we identify ourselves with an ego, trapped, okay, inside of our body. The ego involves our interpretations, our perceptions, and so forth. As judgments, shame, blame, so forth.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then so it makes the first once removed from reality separation reinforced by the second twice removed from reality, your identification to the ego, and thrice removed from reality when we think that our identification is trapped within inside of a pile of dust we call a body. Okay. Those three levels of removement, that's not even a word, when you remove yourself once, twice, and three times removed from a reality, you are deeper into the thick of the egoic mind. You are in the matrix. And so because of that, the way to survive within the matrix from an egoic mind is to play and dance and give attention to those things that are naturally not incompatible with who you are. You and I are one with the infinite source that we are. That is, so we're going to know this when we step back a little bit from our perceptions, set our interpretations to the side, stop thinking for a moment, and to allow a moment, a millisecond, to allow the world to recede from us, to allow the fixation of separation to go away, to let go of our perceptions, our interpretations, as well as this fixation on image, this self-concept that we ourselves created. So this self-concept called Kevin Rice must end, okay, by my own choosing, if I'm going to understand that the unchanging, unchangeable nature of who I am as infinite consciousness is who I am. I can't know that. I can't anchor myself to it unless I let go of the anchor, the fixation I have on the world of time and space, which even Einstein says is purely an hallucination. We might have some highs here. Why don't you take to see if there are any comments there real quick? Why I
their sister.
Okay, Terry Prince. Hello, Terry. My brother, I think he's in the West Coast. Let's look at this here. Okay. Maria, love you so much in Miami. Robert McCarran, good to see you, my friend. Robert, do we need a book? No, you already have, Robert. You probably already have A Course in Miracles or whatever book of or Conversations with God, Your Answer, The Way of Mastery, my book, which is on my website, onlylovingthoughts.com. Monica, hello. Sharon, thumbs up to you. Terry Prince, be transformed by the renewing of our minds. We must love beyond form. And this is exactly what we are discussing here, Terry. And by the way, this is what you are doing each and every day, Terry. You're doing what Ryan and I are doing here in West Palm Beach and Miami as well. You daily make a practice of dropping a pebble of love into your hemisphere every day. Okay? And when you do that, you personally experience the ripples of it. And the same is true with anybody who's dropping a pebble of fear into our field of awareness as well. Okay?
I got to give you a practical story about this.
And one more thing here. David, Andrew, and Josh Faircloth are watching as well. Hello. And we got a lot of people here connecting with us. So if you have any questions, folks, just send us a question here. We got about 25 more minutes probably. And we're talking about A Course in Miracles and so forth. So thank you so much, Terry, for your love as well. Go ahead.
So yesterday I had no plans, I had no agenda, and everyone from work kept telling me about this town near here called Lake Worth, and I had no plans. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to drive to Lake Worth today. Once again, my judgment, my fear popped in, thinking Ryan's driving a car, carbon emissions. I was going to a coffee shop. I knew that I was going to buy a one-time disposable cup, and so I had resistance to it. But then I said, you know what, I was thinking about Abraham Hicks's work, and I was like, no, I feel like this is going to bring me joy, and if I'm expressing that level of joy, then I think that supersedes the cup that I'm gonna, this biodegradable cup that I'm gonna put into the recycling bin. So I go to the shop, right? I'm reading Abraham Hicks's book. I put it down on the table. I go to the bathroom. I walk back. What happens? I meet a girl named Anna, and her and I end up talking for nearly 3-4 hours. And she reads all the same books, and all of she's into all the same work as this. She's heard of Abraham. She's read these books. So can you talk a little bit about how synchronicities or how these experiences will come into being? I know that Abraham always talks about vibration, and if we are in a state of acceptance, love, joy, receptivity, then we're naturally more inclined to cross paths with people that are on this similar path. How does that work? How does that work at attracting people into your lives that are on similar paths, synchronicities?
There's a metaphysical axiom that says if you got it, or if you spot it, you got it.
If you spot it, you got it. I like that.
So, look, as I said, I'm going to restate it again. The world is nothing more than an outward picture of an inward condition. if you're conditioned, and by the way, we can talk about the science behind this, okay? And I've done this thoroughly in Miami at Unity on the Bay and here at Only Loving Thoughts group discussion as well. That if you look right now at the science behind this, okay, that we are reacting to electrical impulses that is charging in the back of our brains. And metaphysically, what we are referring to is interpretation. Okay, so whatever interpretation or the electrical impulse that we are charging in the back of our brain, that is the experience that we will have. So I think it's helpful when we understand from A Course in Miracles perspective that we're not just a participant within this dream state, this living dream state here, but that the collective mind is the dreamer of the entire dream. So the connection that you and I and everybody wants is a connection between two choices here. One is I'm aligning to fear and all of its effects and the sufferings and the wild imaginings that arise because I think that I'm an ego, or I choose again. Okay, by the way, one of my emails is chooseonceagain@gmail.com. I choose again. I choose to surround what I'm looking at with the idea of who I really am. So I'm no longer projecting my fear through blame or shame upon the world, but I am choosing again through the lens of love, being informed by love, okay? So everything that I experience as a result of it is sacred. Because all I'm doing is I'm extending and expressing the good, the sacred, and the beautiful each and every day. Okay, when I begin to know that this is not a world where I'm going to get anything from anyone or any organization or anything, my whole what can I get is completely gone from my mind because it's upside down and ignorant completely. When I say ignorant, I mean that we are asleep. We're experiencing mind asleep and not mind awake. So what we want is mind awake. So you mentioned to me about the coffee cup or the
trash.
Okay.
Any trash that you
Okay.
create.
So let's just talk about that styrofoam cup that you were referring to. Okay, was that styrofoam cup a distraction for you?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was.
So if you go beyond, allow your mind to go back a little bit.
To release the resistance I have to the cup.
Okay, but let's go even further than that. So what we are experiencing, what I'm asking you to do is go beyond Ryin Cornett, number one. The name, Ryin.
Okay.
So go before that. Go before that place where your father and mother said, my son's name is Ryin.
Wait.
Go before that.
So you mean that my Instagram and my Facebook's not my true identity?
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Oh, man, we're gonna have to cut this short, guys.
Yeah. So okay, so go beyond, go backward even further beyond that. Okay.
Okay.
Before you were even birthed into this dimension, before you received the imprint that your mother and your father gave to you, before the conditioning and the culture that you have been given and accepted as yourself, go before that to a place of pure, infinite consciousness, which you are. So all of the details, the specifics, is nothing more than a production of what your mind has either created or miscreated. We know that it's done from a place of creation when we know the beauty and the love and the innocence that we are looking at, the sacred nature of what we are. Okay, it goes south when we identify with and side with those voices of fear, those voices of death. I tell people all the time in counselings here in West Palm Beach and Miami, you have to be aware of the narrative that you keep playing and dancing with each and every day. Unfortunately, the narrative, the dirge of death, the song of death that a lot of people are telling themselves over and over again, keeps them asleep. Okay.
The Dalai Lama always says that the first thought he has in the morning is the most important part of his day. And when he wakes up first thing in the morning, immediately before he even opens his eyes, he starts to say things that he's grateful for. So that is the mindset that he propels forward when he starts to go about his day. I think that's beautiful, right?
Exactly. So then your identification is no longer on the 3 levels of being removed from reality. Okay, when I said get rid of your identification with Ryin Cornett, that's your body, thrice removed from reality. Get rid of the interpretations, the perceptions, the conditioning that you receive from your parents, from society. Okay, that's the 2nd level removed from reality. And the first level removed from a reality is that whole hallucination that you and I are separate from each other, that we're separate from the people that are watching with us right now. Okay. That is an hallucination. So when I say go back, okay, go backward to that place that you know, that deepest place in your totality, your beingness, and anchor yourself to that, okay? And when you do that, you will experience spaciousness, okay? Your mind is no longer here, it's here. You asked earlier about serendipity or being synchronistic. Yeah. All of this occurs naturally. It is your natural state of being when these things arise, because your mind is now more spacious. It is no longer restrained and restricted to being a raucous voice trapped within inside of a body. You go backward to your own original identity. Okay? We can't know that unless we understand that all that we have played with and danced with heretofore has been nothing but an illusion. An illusion of separation, an illusion that an ego, okay, trapped into the past and the future, and use it as the way to navigate ourselves through it, and also being transfixed with the image of your self-concept. You say, Kevin, what's your name? My answer is nobody. And in your nobodiness, you experience the somebody that you really are. You understand?
Yeah. Paul Selig, a great teacher, he talks about how what is true is always true and has always been true. So if you say, I'm an architect, well, one day you won't be an architect, so that's not true. That's not who you are, because that's not eternal. That's not this eternal truth.
Right.
And I've heard you say that before, too, that what is true is always true.
Yeah. A specific statement from A Course in Miracles: salvation is nothing more than the recognition that what was never true is not true now and never will be. That the impossible has not occurred. Another statement from A Course in Miracles says that the only venue in which an illusion can be afforded reality is within a dream state. Okay? In other words, the moment that I fixate with the illusion of separation or the ego or the body, I am asleep. I'm in the matrix. I'm being run and hooked by others. Okay? When I begin to experience myself as mind awake, first of all, being aware of what you have already produced, by acknowledging it, by accepting the upside mess that we're looking at. It's what mystics says in two kind of ways. All is well, but the world is a mess.
I like that.
Okay? So all is well in reality, but our misperceptions, which is so powerful, we're going to see it in 3D Technicolor each and every day. When I change my mind, I'm not here to change your behavior. I'm not changing your condition. I am not trying to improve you because you're not broken. So I go beyond the appearances of time and space and connect myself with the reality that rests and resides, and the beauty and the bliss and the happiness that arises when we allow the world to recede, to allow our interpretations and our perceptions to recede into the nothingness from which they were born. And we see ourselves instead connecting to infinite consciousness, okay, which has no separation, which is one. And in that oneness, you see that nothing has been removed by your own choosing, and that you can experience instead spaciousness, oneness, and a feeling that you're not alone, and a connection with your source that is palpable, and you're going to see the demonstration of that oneness each and every day when you understand how powerful and how potent our minds are. We got some people either take a little look at this here. All right. Megan, Tar, hello. We love you. Corolla in Miami, hello. Dennis, Leto, hello. Diana Lunita, hello. Terry, again, says like attracts like. We attract what we are and what we believe. We reap in the world what we sow into the world. Sow love. Yes, we are dropping pebbles of love into our field or pool of awareness. Diana Lunita, oneself. Yes, being aware of the narrative. Yes, changing the narrative from birth, death, and rebirth to eternal life. Okay, life does not begin at the life does not start at birth and does not end at death. That life is eternal. And Terry says all eminence, all, I can't say that word, emanates, that's the word, emanates from love. Love is all, and anytime we are not seeing love, we suffer. Anytime we believe love is not where we are, who we are, and why we are, we suffer. It is done unto us as we have believed, because only in love, it is the only truth. Love, love, love. Megan, all love. It is love. There is no veil that the love and us together cannot lift. And that's what we are doing together. So,
let me ask you, after everything we've discussed here, like I said, I'm the millennial. I'm always looking for the 3-step guide. So can you give us like a meditation or a mindfulness practice or some like nugget, some takeaway that we can utilize every day to step away from our projections and our ego and our judgment and our disalignment with source? Is there some type of practice or mantra or prayer that we can say that helps us step back from ego and projection and helps us align with truth?
Yeah. So you want to bring your attention back to the present moment. You want to experience infinite consciousness, and we can't know that until we are fully here and now. So there's 2 exercises I would recommend, I have used repeatedly. One is when you see an event arising, because the judgmental mind would immediately attack it, poke it, evaluate it, compare it, and so forth. So you want to collapse time and space immediately. by saying and admit with great honesty, I don't know what this means. Okay? I don't know what this means. Tell me. In other words, you are in a receptive modality instead of dictating to the universe how it should show up. But you kind of collapse time and space almost instantly because you let go of the guilt, which is the glue that keeps it together, number one. So I say, okay, I don't know what this means. Tell me what it means. So in that moment, I'm not being informed by fear, the past or the future, but I'm being informed by love instead. And secondly, I used to do this in Miami with a doctor there, and we'd walk in Miami Beach together and have a meditative session with each other, where all that we did was saying, if we see poop in the park, I am that, I am. Or a homeless person, I am that, I am. Or a Mercedes, I am that, I am. So that I am presence, we are activating the I am presence by saying, I'm
not better than anything else. Everything
not
is
only
sacred.
that,
God
but that
created
I have
everything.
produced the condition that I'm experiencing right now. I'm reading a book right now, which is wonderful, by the way. It's called You Are That, okay, Ganga Ji. And a lot of you know this book as well. And it's a wonderful book. That'll be your second reading, probably. Saying you are that. And I would say the same thing. You are that. And of course, the miracle says it similarly, right? I have done this thing, and it is this that I will undo. I have made a mess of this world, not just personally, but collectively. I have participated on the battlefield with myself, but I can choose again. Okay, I can get off of the war right now with an instant, a millisecond. I can be off of the battlefield immediately. By, as the Taoists would say, stop thinking and end your problems now. Okay? What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? So all of those interpretations and perceptions are useless. They are useful only being informed by love. This is true. But being informed by fear, a guilt-ridden state of mind, you're not going to experience anything but suffering because of that. The self that you and I are trying to improve does not exist.
I love that, yeah.
Okay? As A Course in Miracles says, man, enlightenment enlightenment is not a change at all, but a recognition. That's it. A recognition of the infinite consciousness that you and I are. And that is infinite consciousness that we want to play with and dance with. And let go of the child toys that we've played with heretofore. We have to accept our inheritance, our legacy, that what has been given to us by our source. And when we connect and anchor ourselves with that, then the world begins to change accordingly. Does that make sense?
Yes, and to build on that, something that Kevin always says that I love is let go of your should-be list. And this has helped me so much. When I feel anxiety, when I feel nervousness, any time in my day, at work, on the weekends, when I go out with friends and I'm in a new place and I don't know anybody, anytime I feel anxiety, I ask myself, am I in my should-be list? And the answer is always yes. I'm always creating judgment on myself in separation from source because I'm creating the should-be list. The should-be list of, well, I should be at home sleeping, or I should be less reactive to this experience at work, and I'm creating resistance to that experience. So when I step away from the should-be list and I just accept things as they are, I I take a deep breath, and then I make the highest choice possible. It helps with anxiety so much. And so that I want to say thank you because that's helped me a lot.
Thank you. I'll add, we got 3 minutes left, I think, by adding one more thing. The what should be list is the same of mentality to the world when I accept a mindset that says, what can I get from you in this relationships? What can I get from you in this job? What can I get from my spouse? What can I get from the government? And so forth. What can I get from you is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so damaging as the what should be list is because in that moment, especially in relationships, and by the way, I have obviously a book about this on my website about this. If we're on what can I get from you, it creates a scenario in the relationship that will ultimately fail because it's built on a house of cards. Okay? Look, you're not here to get anything from anyone. You are here to express the infinite consciousness that you are. You begin to know that the way that you're going to get what you want is by giving. Giving, 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 giving. You're giving that idea of love and bliss and joy and beauty to the world that is in desperate need of it. You want to change the world? Begin by dropping pebbles of love into the pool of awareness that you're looking at right now. Stop judging it. Okay? Suspend your judgments. Set aside your tiny little perceptions and interpretations being produced in the back of your brain scientifically. Set it aside, and your mind becomes more abstract. And you have a feeling of infinite consciousness that begins to arise because of it. That's it. Just sink into the reality of who you are as you let go quickly and easily the hallucinations that you and I have miscreated in our world. That's it. You want to know reality? Let go of the illusions, the blocks that you and I have erected to prevent ourselves from experiencing it directly. Carl Jung says one time, Dr. Carl Jung says, that religion is nothing more than an attempt to prevent us from having an experience of oneness with God. So as we let go of religion, as we let go of our prescriptions, interpretations, perceptions, when we stop poking at the world, okay, the universe stops poking at us as a result. The world can only give to you what you are giving to it. So together, Ryan, you and I today did just that. Okay? We expressed and extended the good, the sacred, and the beautiful to the world. Okay? And they're going to get the remembrance of that, by the way. And I'm going to give you the final word that you're going to say. So, Leslie, hello. Terry says again, it is our giving that we receive. The spiritual principle is in our givingness. Nowhere is spirit getting. It only gives, expresses. The sun gives, water gives. It's all givingness. So, that's it. You want to end this thing? And by the way, I want to remind everybody, if you're in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or West Palm Beach, we're here for you. Okay? Look at our website, the calendar, our events in Miami. And by the way, the 1st and 3rd of every Sunday at Unity on the Bay, 1 o'clock and at Unity on the Bay, and every Wednesday night here in West Palm Beach. All of the details are on their website, onlylovingthoughts.com. If you need counselings, that's available too. Whole mind counselings. just go to our website, and I'll end the exchange with you with what you want to extend.
Awesome. I just want to leave with one last thought. This is something I experienced at Unity on the Bay last Sunday during the ceremony there, during the service. There was people from all different faiths that came to express the fundamentals of what their religion taught. And I started to see something. I started to see that there was something that was ubiquitous, a common theme amongst all these major religions. And this brings me back to an experience I had in Hawaii. I lived with a wonderful doctor there, Dr. Richard Reimer, and one day I asked him, I said, how do you feel about spirituality? Do you have a religion? And he said, you know what, Ryan? He said, I've read all the books. I've read all of the spiritual books. I read all the religious texts. And he said, I'm not sure what I align with, but there's one common theme that I have found in every single book that I have read. And that one common theme is, do unto others as you wish done unto yourself. Treat others the way you wish to be treated. Love thy brother and thy sister as thyself.
Yep. And it reminded me, it's all on their website. Every version of what you just said is in our About tab. It gives all of the descriptions of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and go on and on and on. But it reminds me, lastly, what Jesus said to a lawyer who came to him and said, hey, what do I have to do to live forever, right? And Jesus said, well, what does the prophet say? What does the law say? And the attorney says that we should love God with all of our heart, soul, and strength, and love others as we want to be loved. And Jesus said, do this, and you will live forever. I love you, my brother.
Love you too, brother.
And look, if no one has told you guys that they love you, allow us together to say, we love you immensely, and that you are pure light.